Yeah. And I think, that's the question on everybody's mind over these past couple of days after the game on Sunday. What's wrong with Zach? And what needs to be done for him to improve for this offense to reach the potential that everyone knows it has? Where Joe Flacco wasn't playing very well, and they were leading the league in passing yards practically over the first couple of weeks with him starting. So if Zach Wilson can play somewhat competent with the skill talent that they have, hopefully they should be able to perform just as well, if not better. But like you said, they just went against two very, very talented passing defenses. They had issues at wide receiver with Corey Davis getting hurt and likely not playing again this week, which is going to be cause for concern. They were down Elijah Moore to start with. That's two starting receivers out, having to be replaced. You have a run game that outside of one big run by Breece Hall was not really non-existent for most of the day. And you had a defense that was constantly messing with the protection scheme and getting free rushers on the quarterback constantly. This was a recipe for disaster, where that's a really tough situation for any quarterback to survive in. And I want to be very clear when we talk about this, that all of that can be true. And that doesn't mean that I'm sitting here saying that that excuses the problems that Zach had and means that he did not have a bad game when he did. It wasn't a good game from him, and that's okay. It wasn't a horrendous, awful 4 interception, terrible disaster like we've seen sometimes in his rookie year and from plenty other Jets quarterbacks over time. He still hasn't turned the ball over in the last 3 games. I think that's important. There might have been times where he came close, and that needs to be improved. But in the same vein, there was a lot of times when he was getting instantly pressured and has a free rusher in his face immediately, and he's able to spin out of it and run around and eventually throws the ball away. Even if you would like him to do it sooner, or even if you would like him to find somebody downfield to throw to, he's turning what would be a sack for most quarterbacks into a wash. And that counts for something as well. But the number one problem with him, and it's been a question going all the way back to when he was a prospect at BYU, is him handling pressure. And when the pass protection isn't there for him, can he still produce? Can he still keep his eyes downfield? Can he still complete passes? Can he use all of his natural talent and gifts and his ability to move and evade pressure and make people miss and avoid sacks? I remember I said it a few weeks ago, Matt. I think it was after the Pittsburgh game, where I was saying, I can't believe how effective he is at making people miss and not getting sacked, because it seems like he should be sacked so often, and yet somehow he extends plays forever. He's still doing that. And that's a skill at this point. It's not something that's just luck. It's a talent that he has. He needs to be able to harness it and use that to take advantage of what the defense is going to give up when plays extend and when coverage breaks down. When you look at his passing splits right now, it's incredible, where he's an absolutely fantastic quarterback when he's not pressured, and he's completing, I think 70% of his passes are close to it. He's got most of his passing yards. He's got his only touchdown, hasn't thrown any interceptions, and his yards per attempt is like top 10 in the league, and he's doing really well. And then you look at him when he's pressured, and he's like the 31st ranked quarterback. And he's completing 12% of his passes. 32nd, excuse me, even worse. He's completing 12% of his passes against pressure. That's horrendous. That is not good enough in the NFL. In the NFL, as a quarterback, you are going to get pressured. You are going to have to deal with it at some point. Offensive linemen get hurt all the time. The Jets are seeing that firsthand. They've seen it from the year before. Every team in the league deals with offensive lineman injuries because those guys are getting into car crashes 100 times a game. It's inevitable. As an NFL quarterback, you have to be able to navigate the pocket. You have to be able to know where your lanes of escape are. You have to be able to keep your eyes downfield when you roll out. You have to be able to step up in the pocket, and when the lane opens up right in front of you, if you're not going to run, maneuver enough to find a throwing lane. That's being a pro quarterback. And when everything's kept clean for you, having the opportunity to turn around and throw laser in cuts over the middle and let guys run for 40 yards, that's awesome. We love that. We don't want to get rid of that by any means, but we also need to see the play from the pocket under pressure, being able to throw, stand tough in the pocket when someone's coming at you, and still keep your mechanics clean and throw accurately. I thought this was one of his worst games of his career when it came to handling pressure, and he's only going to see more of it this week in New England. It's quite frankly, this was his 17th start, which would qualify as a full, first year of playing, even though it's a year and a half into his second year with the time he missed to start the season, anytime he missed in the middle of the year last year. He's not a rookie anymore, technically, going into this week. This week starts year 2. I'm not holding anything back. Yes, you're dealing with things on the offensive line. Losing AVT is irreplaceable. Like I said, that counts for something. No Breece Hall counts for something. But you still have a bunch of talent on this offense. Matt, we spent a lot of time over the summer talking about how talented this skill group was. Losing one guy shouldn't change that. If this group is as talented as we believe it is, then we shouldn't need Breece Hall to carry them. We shouldn't need to trust that our running back that's a rookie needs to go and outproduce some of the most talented guys that we think we've had on this team in a very long time. We signed 2 tight ends in free agency at the top of the market. It's time for them to step up. It's time for Michael Carter, who is the solid starting running back that we expected before Breece Hall got drafted, to step up and fill the role. Joe Douglas knows what this is. Joe Douglas is not backing down, and he knows that this team can win now. That's why he went out and traded for James Robinson. And he didn't just say, well, we'll stick with the guys we like and give Bam Knight an opportunity and, we'll be okay and we'll get him next year. He said, no, we're good. We're 5-2. We're trying to win. We're right in the thick of it. And we can go and make a move to keep things rolling. Let's go win. The rest of the team needs to step up. That starts with Zach Wilson for me. I'm not holding any excuses for him. If you're the number 2 pick in the draft, go and prove it.
Yeah, really. Because last game, it was absolutely horrendous. The one that sticks out the most to me was this one play where he drops back. He's got some inside pressure coming, and he's got Garrett Wilson wide open, and he sees him
on the corner route, right?
On the corner route, and he sees him. And instead of just stepping up and fire it in there, his eyes just turns into a runner. He starts looking at the line. He sees the pressure, and he just goes into bounce mode, just trying to bounce around. And he misses a huge play there. And it's just a comfort thing. He just doesn't look comfortable under pressure or just even in his own body. He looks like he's trying to squirm his way out of his own body when he's under pressure. And it seems like that way too when he's when those free runners and he's just spinning around. He's just spinning in his head. He can't see anything downfield. There could be guys wide open right in front of him. I don't think he would ever really see them. I think he's so busy. He's not looking. He's so busy just doing his thing of avoiding that there's nothing outside of that. And when you have that, yeah, sure, you're going to get plays where there's going to be a wash. He might throw it away. But at the same time, there's no progress either. When you look at some of the best quarterbacks under pressure, they will evade and they keep their eyes downfield. They keep their composure and they're always looking to make a play and not just evade. He's got one half of the formula down. Now it's the other half that he needs to really step it up, put it into gear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The play that stuck out for me, and I remember texting you about this live while the game was going on, he's throwing to a wide open CJ Uzomah over the middle on one of their classic little play action tight end pop passes on the glance route that goes right over behind the linebackers. And I'm pretty sure it was like a 2nd and 3, and they're looking to move the chains and keep a drive going. And Uzomah's wide open. And all he has to do is just put it on him. It's not a far throw. It's probably 15 yards max. He doesn't need to lead him downfield. He doesn't need to try and, do anything fancy. Just get the ball on him while he's wide open. Let him catch it. Let him turn the corner and run. And he's got a free runner coming at him. I'm pretty sure it wasn't an immediate, free rusher off the snap, but I think someone missed a block or someone got beat, and he's got a guy coming into his face. He's got time to throw. He's got the ability to stand tall, stand in the pocket, set his feet, make this easy throw to Uzomah. It's not like he needs to drive into it 45 yards downfield and put everything in his back leg and whip his arm. He really doesn't even need to throw all of his hips into it and throw that hard. He just needs to do that to keep his accuracy and guide the football with his arm, and it's going to be a big play. And yet he drifts and he throws off his back foot and the ball sails over Uzomah's head. And then they go back on the sideline, and I'm interpreting what I think I was reading between the two of them as the camera showed a clip of them back on the sideline discussing what had happened. It might have been on a 3rd down, actually, when they went off. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, it was a crucial down. and they're communicating, and it looks like Zach saying, "Oh, I was trying to lead you upfield. I was trying to throw it up and you were open and there was room. I was trying to already like guide you that way." And it was a miscommunication on that. Even if that's what he was trying to do, I don't like the decision of it because the guy's wide open and it's a crucial down. Just get it to him. The best thing you can do is get him the ball while he has the separation. Floating it and giving the defender time to run under and undercut it isn't going to help. Even then, you missed it completely. So that's the problem, is he has to learn to stand tall in the pocket and navigate when things get tight around him and make throws. And the important thing about this, Matt, that we have to remember is that there's evidence of him doing it before. It's rare. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's consistent, and that's been the biggest problem, but we've seen it happen in various games. We saw it at the end of the Pittsburgh game. We saw it in the Tampa Bay game at the end of the season the year before. I think we saw a little bit of it when he played against the Titans. I remember seeing multiple examples of it on his tape at BYU, even though he dealt with good pass protection. There were also examples of the problems that we've seen as well. And that's where he really needs to clean up. The good thing is, I think that a lot of the other issues that we had with him are starting to work themselves out. I think he's taken better care of the football. I think he's a little more understanding of his offense. I think he's still got a good ability to avoid sacks and evade pressure. It's just handling being an efficient quarterback and running your system and staying on schedule despite pressure coming at you. That's how you win in the NFL.
Yeah. And I can't stress enough, like, how important it is to take care of the football and not turn it over. If you can do that, that's a huge part of what it takes to win, because winning the turnover differential comes into play countless times. And if you win that, you usually win the game. I always hear commentators say that, oh, well, if you win the turnover battle, you're probably going to win the game. And so far we have. And it's showing up in the win-loss column. He has all the ability in the world. He just needs to trust himself to use that ability. And we haven't even seen the best of him yet. And we know it's possible. We're hoping for it. And this would be a great week to do it too.
Yeah, it really would. He's going to have a big test. This is, if you want to be a successful quarterback for the Jets, you got to beat the Patriots when they're down bad, and it matters for you for the playoffs. If there was ever a time to go win over this fan base for the rest of the year, if not the rest of however long, go be the second overall pick that beats Bill Belichick and sets the Jets up at 6-2 and continues to be undefeated as a starter. That'll catapult you to success. That'll dust off most of the criticism. The fans will love you again. You won't be facing does the team trust Zach Wilson or he's terrible and they need to be looking at other quarterbacks or he's holding them back. That'll all be gone. You have the opportunity to do it this week. And the number one advice I can give him for any sort of quarterback dealing with this very, very tough issue, it's so hard to replicate dealing with live pressure in practice when guys are actually trying to take your head off. When it's full speed and it's not people taking care of each other like a practice environment, it's so much different to replicate that as a quarterback. So when it comes down to it, you have to go back to trusting your mechanics. And so I think it's repetition, it's muscle memory, it's making sure that you are as crisp and as clean as possible so that when everything is breaking down, you don't have to be thinking about getting your body right. Your body's going to work for you and you can let your brain operate on top of that. That's what I'm hoping to see from him, because I think we've seen the pressure get into his head and that's caused his mechanics to get a little sloppy and everything just goes downhill from there. If he can get his mechanics clean, I think he can be okay.
That's a big if, though. It's a huge if.
Where's John Beck when you need him, man?
We haven't seen consistency since what, BYU? So, and even there,
I'd argue we saw some consistency at the end of the season.
All right. Yeah. And you know what? There's something to say about that, because a lot of what we saw at the end of the season last year kind of spilled into this year, where it's more of a game manager role. Mm-hmm. He wasn't really taking a lot of risks. And that's followed him. And maybe there's something to say about how that has affected him mentally, where he's kind of toned things down so much and that he's worried about a lot of things now. He's worried about a lot more than he did starting his career. And he's not playing as free and loose as maybe we need him to be to have that confidence in himself. So it's kind of maybe a catch-22. Either we have reckless Zach, who's going to take risks, but also have maybe more confidence in himself and his ability, or we have game manager Zach, who doesn't take the risks and doesn't have confidence in himself. I would like to think that there's a way we can get both, but until we see it, it doesn't exist.
Right now, it is a little bit of the Jekyll and Hyde, but I think, to be completely and totally fair, again, not trying to save Zach Wilson from any criticism from what was a bad game, but I think it's also fair to point out that these have been games where I said at the beginning of the show, the Jets have won with their defense and special teams. Maybe that's giving him more incentive not to take the risk. Maybe that's giving him more incentive to not be looking as much for the big play because he knows his defense is playing well. They're playing with a lead. Their special teams is playing fantastic. Their kicker, I can't remember the last time Zuerlein's missed a kick. It's been, I think he might have had, did they have a punt block
54-yarder
field goal
last
blocked?
week?
Or a 54-yarder. Okay, so a very long kick in Green Bay with some tough conditions. Outside of that, he's been lights out. He was lights out in Denver. They have an opportunity to win games where they don't need him to be reckless and go out and be the crazy, flashy guy. They just need him to manage the game, get them in good position. And if they have to settle for a field goal, that's fine. Their defense is going to keep them in it right back. And their special teams is going to make sure they have good field position if they punt. I think that's a part of this. And I think that it's important to take note of the fact that Zach Wilson doesn't care if that's how he has to play to win games. And this is kind of where I want to end with this. Does he need to improve? Absolutely. Are there things that he needs to clean up so that the Jets can continue to win and hopefully win in the future in the postseason? 110%. They will not be have any postseason success if he continues to play the way he's playing right now. But they are still playing winning football, and he is not costing them games, and the Jets have won 4 in a row. And they're looking
primed. That matters.
That's all that matters. Like, that's at the end of the day, that's the important thing, is that I can legitimately say, and I think you'll agree with this, Matt, Zach Wilson did nothing to cost them the game against the Denver Broncos. I don't think there was at any point where there was any ungodly, horrendous plays from him that were so egregiously terrible that if it would have went a different way, that they should have lost. I think he absolutely could have been better so that they would have won by multiple scores. But I don't think that there was a situation where I'm sitting there going, man, they got out of there by their skin of their teeth. And, Zach had 7 interceptions that were dropped and they got so lucky and he was awful and he should have cost them the game. Like, that wasn't my takeaway. And I would hope you would agree with that.
Maybe that spin move where he almost fumbled it.
That's about the one. Yeah, that's about the one you can say.
That's probably the only one. But yeah, if you can get away with one of those a game, I think that's special because, hey, how many turnover worthy plays do the most quarterbacks usually have? Probably like 1 or 2. And usually if they miss, they're missing in a position where if they do miss, it's not going to hurt them as much. So the fact that if we can only get away with one bad play like that, I consider that a win.
Yeah, I think so too. And I hope in the future that we'll continue to see more good plays and not just stalemates and not, hold our breath moments and hope for the best, but we'll start to see him take advantage of all this talent. And I really think this is a good week for him to do it.